Please give a warm welcome to David Kisor.
I don't drive a Corvette. I drive a 2013 Ford Focus. Hatchback. It's red. It is red. But I'm a musician, and so it's great because I can fit all of my gear in there barely. And it's actually the best car that I've ever owned and the newest car that I've ever owned, which gives you a little history into my prior car ownership. But just let me tell you, I'm what they call a finisher. All right, my budget. When I go to buy a car, my budget's about $1,000 to $1,500. I usually from the last owner, and I just drive that car until it totally dies, donate it to a public radio station, and start again. Or maybe to the gear people downstairs. But I don't have to do it for this car because it's the newest car. It still has an extended warranty. This car tells me things like, when my air pressure is low in the tires, and it has a gas gauge, and it tells you how many miles to empty. That was never on any of the other cars that I had. As a matter of fact, the finisher car before this one was a 2001 Ford Focus. So I like to say that I, put a new focus into my life when I got this car. But anyway, so I love my car, and I drive home to South Point, Ohio. My family lives in South Point, so I live in Cincinnati. And to get to South Point, Ohio, the best way is to what? Go through Kentucky. Has anybody been down the AA highway? All right, so you go down the AA, and then you take a right, and you go over to Grayson, get on 64 through Huntington and back to South Point. And so I've done that quite a bit. And it's interesting about that trip because you lose phone reception sometimes way in the wilds of Kentucky and all of that. But I had gone home for a trip. I had gone home and visit, and so I was deciding to come back, and I'd never listened to Hamilton all the way through. Is anybody? So I was downloading Hamilton on my laptop because I'm a man of a certain age, but not on the phone yet. But and so I said, it's going to be fun. This is going to be a great trip. I'm going to put my laptop in the car seat, and I'm going to get my headphones from the studio. I had my studio headphones to put on. I'm pretty sure that's illegal in all 3 states I was going to drive in. But I think this is going to be a great trip. So it was in June. It was a nice warm summer night, and it was just starting to get dark. And so I put my headphones on, start the car, and dun 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 dun. How does a bastard orphan son of a whore and a Scotch? And I'm like, this is going to be a great ride. And the music was playing. I barely even noticed the places I was going through. And he immigrates to the United States. We get the whole thing going on and falls in love and this and that. And we're going. And so I get to a Grace and I turn off. I'm just about to go onto the AA highway and ding, the light comes on. But Hamilton, his wife just got pregnant, right? Eliza is singing in my ears, look around, how lucky we are to be alive right now. And I said, I'm not stopping for gas. How can you stop for gas? And besides, it tells me I have 40 miles to empty, right? And I know there's a gas station about 25 miles from there, and so I just keep on going. Oh man, the war heats up, and he's the right-hand man of George Washington, and things are happening, and we're going. And finally, his wife's pregnant, he has to go home, but then he goes back to war, and then we have to, Rochambeau! Oh no. Out of gas. In the middle of nowhere. And so I pull over, and I got to admit to you, I waited until the revolution was won. We drove him out of Yorktown. And then I have to evaluate my situation, check my cell phone, no service, of course. I'm out in the middle of nowhere. And so no gas can. And so I'm going to have to walk to the nearest gas station. And by my calculations, I didn't even know. I didn't even exactly know where I was. And I step out into this beautiful, warm summer night, mostly overcast, but every once in a while the stars would peek through a place in the clouds, and I started walking. And what I noticed right away was how quiet and dark darkness is. I mean, this is, and I could barely see where I was walking on the side of the road, except for, when this car came, every once in a while a car would come up from behind and just light everything up. And then my eyes would have to just, oh, how about the car coming this way? It would totally blind me. And so, but I'm walking at a brisk pace because I'm thinking, I've got to get somewhere. But it just settled me into something. I'd gone past this part of this road dozens of times in the years that I would go back and visit my family, and I've never really noticed it. And usually 10 or 15 miles over the speed limit, right? As a matter of fact, my mind went to the last speeding ticket that I'd gotten. This was June, and I knew, insurance purposes, that ticket was going to fall off. Guess when? July 4th. Dum, 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 right? Because it was 3 years prior to that I'd gotten a speeding ticket. I'd come home, and I'd been making several trips as often as I could because my dad was in the hospital. I got that speeding ticket, and it was 5 days later that he passed. It had been about 3 years that my dad had passed. And then I thought about him and the first car that he ever had. It was a Model A Ford. I guess we're a Ford family, I don't know. But he was born in 1937, went to high school in the mid-50s, and he had his car painted his school colors. They put streamers on it, cheerleaders on the fenders, and he would drive his car out onto the football field on Friday nights before he played trombone in the band. And so in his later years, right before he died, he got another Model A. It was just, didn't paint it up, it was just a black Model A. And then I got this picture in my mind of my father and my oldest daughter in the Model A looking out of the passenger side window. That was the last time my daughter and my dad were together. And I started thinking about my daughter. My oldest daughter had 2 children and had some postpartum depression after the second child, and called me and said, Dad, I've got to work through some things, so I need to just time by myself for a while. So I'll call you and let you know when we can get back together again. And it's been about 3 years. It's been over 3 years now, too. She lives in St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm walking in the dark, warm night and wondering how many steps it would take to get to Minnesota at this pace. But you know what was on my mind most of all? Hamilton. It wasn't even the end of the first act, and we've already won the Revolutionary War. What in the world are they going to do in the second act to top that, right? All right, so I'm walking and I'm walking. I think I'm walking for hours. I'm lost in this wonderful thing, and I'm feeling this area, and I'm just thinking of time and space and distance, and how getting out of my car gives me a whole different perspective. And then finally I see some lights on, gas station. All right, I hope it's open. Yes, 24-hour gas station. Now, another thing I have to tell you at this point, there was a few missteps along the way. It's really dark. I fell twice. I fell once and bruised my hands pretty bad. And then I was lost in thought about something, and I fell and hit the dirt and scraped my knee. So I have a cut. Oh, I had khakis on that night too. How about that? I had cut. I have a bloody knee. And you think the hair is a little bit weird right now. When I use the headphones, okay, so I'm walking into this gas station looking like who knows what, right? Guess what? They had sold out of gas cans. So there's no gas can, but these people are trying to help me. And so Mark, Mark goes in and he says, McDonald's just closed right next door, and you might find some stuff in back of McDonald's, like a couple of those tea jugs. And that's what I did. I dumpster dived in the back of McDonald's, got 2 tea jugs, which is totally illegal in any state, filled them up with gasoline, and then started to go back to my car. When I saw another car come from the other way, so I knew he was going back that way, pulled into the gas station. Now, this guy was definitely a finisher too, this car. Caked in mud, a bungee cord on the trunk, and this young man about half my age jumped out, and he was talking to his girlfriend on the cell phone and things like that. And so I said, hey, I'm out of gas. Would you maybe give me a ride? I think you're going that way. Now, he hesitated. But his hesitation wasn't whether he was going to help me or not. His hesitation was where he was going to put me in his car. Everything that the young man had ever owned in his life, and half the stuff he should have thrown away, was still in his car, okay? There was a chest of drawers in the back seat of his car. Toolboxes, muddy boots, all kinds of stuff all over the place. We found a little nook back in his trunk to put the 2 things of gasoline, and I squeezed in with all the other stuff that was in the passenger seat, and we drove back to my car. So he did a big U-turn, and he's right in the back of my car, and we get out, we get the jugs. As we're getting the jugs out of the trunk, all of a sudden, big car lights again. But this time they were coming from the field. Okay, weird just got weirder, right? A 4-wheeler comes up with 3 young guys already pretty much drunk off their ass, and still two cases of beer left to go. And he says, well, Sawyer, stop there. We want to try to help you out. And so here I am with all the, raise a glass to freedom, right? I mean, my guys were there. I had a whole pit crew in the middle of nowhere, right? So we're all young, scrappy, and country, just like my country, and I'm not going to waste my gas. The guy underneath it was looking, yeah, gas is still pouring out of the bottom. It's all right. So the other thing I haven't told you about the 2013 Ford Focus is that it doesn't have a gas cap. It just has one of those doors that you kind of push on and it opens up. And the fact is, in order to get any gas into the tank, you have to have the rigidity of the gas nozzle to open this little secret door about halfway down. You can't just pour gas into it. And so immediately we start trying to figure things out. Here's one of the guys on the 4-wheeler gets a big knife out and is cutting the top off of an aluminum long neck Bud Light, to see if we can make that into a funnel. We're working it, right? We're trying to get... That didn't work, by the way. It wasn't... So finally, we got it to work, and here's how we did it. Seth went back, and one of his toolboxes got a really long screwdriver and shoved it all the way down there, which opened up the secret door. I had some old concert posters in the back of my car, and I made this enormous funnel out of the posters, and we were able to get the gas in there. So, yeah, a gallon and a half. A gallon and a half was going to get me there. And so the guys on the 4-wheeler said goodbye, and they went back out across the field. I went back, and I shook that young man's hand, and I said, thank you so much. I've got it from here. I'm fine. And he says, no, I'm going to wait until you get started and watch you pull away. He says, you can say what you want about... Oh, by the way, he was from West Virginia. I was born in West Virginia, too. He was from Poco, West Virginia. He was going home after his job had ended in Rabbit Hash, Kentucky, okay? And so he was going there. He says, you can say what you want about us hillbillies, but we take care of each other. And so I went in, turned the car on, took off, and in my rearview mirror, I saw him make a big U-turn to go back home. I got back to the gas station. I came in, and it was like I was family already. The one behind the counter, hey, Mark, Dave, he made it back with his car. He got it started. That's great. And he's, oh, it's good. All right, so I went out, and as I was filling up my car, I just thought about this night. Wow, getting out of my car made me appreciate my car. I thought about my dad and my daughter. Look around, look around. I got in the seat, put my headphones back on, turned the key over, headed towards home, excited to find out what happens after the revolution. Thank you.
Let's give it up again for David Kisor.